I know you got to save something for the Porter Way podcast, but
just for you, baby.
Just because Joshua Usyk's coming up, you beat Usyk, as we know, in the amateurs. You got to mention it. But you talk about moments in boxing. Is that Joshua's best chance? He's got to make a couple moments happen to get a knockout. He can't win over 12 rounds a fight with Usyk. And what do you think of the change to Robert Garcia too?
Think about it like this: when you saw me fight and you saw me being very aggressive, I was trying to take control, and I was trying to establish my game plan and what I wanted to do in the ring. And essentially, I wanted it to be an entire moment. You know what I mean? I didn't want just moments in the fight. I wanted to be able to control that moment from the beginning of the bell to the last bell. And I think that that's what Joshua has to do. He can't just have a moment or two. That's not enough for Usyk. You got to control the ring, my man. You got to control the action, and you can't allow Usyk to get started. Usyk's the type of fighter that can create moments. Joshua's not the type of fighter that can create moments. So throw that out the window. Go at this man and don't allow him to get comfortable and find his rhythm.
What do you think when people are like, he's just got to be on top of him? How do you actually go about it?
That's all good.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's
because that's what everyone's saying. Like, he's got to be on top of him. You can't box.
He's got to be tactical, But the way I always see it, and for myself and other fighters as well, like, you have to make your presence known. And when you do that, sometimes that's enough mentally to take a guy off of his game or shut a guy down from executing his game plan. And I think that he has to, Joshua has to make his presence felt on fight night against Usyk.
Shawn, going back to Ryan or rather Teo and Ryan, Oscar is coming this weekend. But as we all know, talks with Gervonta and him are still going on. Is that maybe a negotiating tactic, you think? Oscar coming here, and maybe it's kind of...
I don't know the business that well, but I do think that, well, let's think about it like this. Would Oscar rather work with Top Rank, or would he rather work with PBC, Mayweather, that whole thing? So, you just think about it like that. However, the other side of that is, why not come? Why not CTO? Why not try to make that fight happen? The fight's great too. You know what I mean? It's a very close second. I think the world really wants Tank and Ryan, but Teo and Ryan, I mean, is that even really a second? You know what I mean? So it's 140 and 135 is getting live.
And just want do you think Robert was a good pick by Joshua style-wise, and what he need? Like, that's the good trainer to get for the adjustments he needs.
I feel so. I feel like that. I feel like Robert is the type of coach that can create a game plan, improve things that a fighter needs to do. All of this before you even, this is your first fight, your first camp together. I believe he's the kind of coach that can do all of that. And then on fight night, once the action gets going, oh shit, that's not working, let's do this. So I think that Robert's the best guy because he's going to have some tricks in his back pocket, and he's going to train accordingly. I like the move for Anthony Joshua to get Robert Garcia in this corner.
Robert gets a lot of critics for training Joshua since he haven't really trained heavyweights. Do you think it makes a difference for a trainer, training lighter guys?
Here's the funny thing about that is for a guy to train lighter weight classes, and I watch my dad do this. You can get a heavyweight to fight at a faster pace. Guess what? Usyk fights at a fast pace. What does Joshua need to do? Keep up. What am I going to do? Go to a coach that knows how to get me to run my hands. You know what I mean? So it's an advantage for Joshua to pick up Robert Garcia. And on the other side of that, you're saying, well, he's never trained any heavyweights that we know of. He's probably trained multiple heavyweights in the amateur system. But I don't think that takes away from what Robert knows. I think Robert knows heavyweight power. Robert knows that heavyweights are limited in terms of oxygen capacity and the things that they can through the course of 12 rounds. You know, so he's smart, and I don't expect him to make any mistakes. I don't want to make him sound like Superman in this instance, but I do. I hold Robert Garcia in high regard, and I just don't see him making mistakes in terms of the preparation before the fight.
Shawn, with the WBA just mandating Bivol to face Roberto Ramirez, it's a good fight out at 75 there. How does that play out? I mean,
one of the best fights that can be made at 175. Now you got a guy who is just as big as you, and Ramirez, and loves the action too. That's a great fight. You know what I mean? I think, and this
hit a little more at 75 too.
And here's the great part about boxing is we talk about all these big things that we want, and we forget about some of the other fights that can be made out there. I saw it was like, man, I was like, whoa, we got a good one on our hands. Nobody's talked about this. We might have talked about it on the podcast once, but nobody's talking about that fight. That's a great fight.
Yeah, I was excited when I saw it.
Instant excitement, right?
Right.
Instant.
Like, thank God they didn't allow him to do something else.
Instant excitement.